work. A complementary work is also from this one, two sides of the same coin, formal and informal institutional synergy in a case study of wildlife governance in Ghana. And so, ladies and gentlemen, today's presentation, I am more or less taking elements from these published works. This one is published by Society and Natural Resources. The first one is published by Environment, Development, and Sustainability. And so I put these two together, and the title of today's presentation is Collaborative Natural Resource Governance. All right, my dear friends, are you there?
Yes, bro.
Yes, bro.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So by the time we are through with today's session, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, these are just a few of the works which I have projected here, but there are some others which the ideas will flow in the course of the presentation, but I've not highlighted them here as the two I've mentioned. By the time we are through with today's session, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, you should be able to explain the concept of collaborative natural resource governance. Another core point is that you should be able to understand or appreciate why conventional government approaches often fail. Why conventional government approaches often fail. We call it the fortress approach, the traditional approach to managing natural resources. That's the fortress approach. You see, like when you build forts and castles, ostensibly to guard against, your enemies. Okay, so when the colonialists, when they came, they built forts and castles, ostensibly to protect, for security. So in natural resource governance, when we talk of the fortress approach, that is when everything is ceded to the states, and official law, enforcement agencies acting in an exclusive manner. They see other members or sections of society as alien, like we versus them. Okay, the state and its entities versus other members of society. Where people are the destroyers of the environment. So the state is the one, to champion everything. That is the fortress approach. But by the time we are done with today's session, we should be able to understand why the fortress approach or the conventional government approaches often fail. Then we should be able to distinguish between formal and then informal institutions. The fortress approach, well, it's essentially the formal institutions or approaches. Then we will also deal with adaptive governance. It's adaptive governance. And then we will analyze the institutional evolution using the case of the BFMS in Ghana, okay, the Yeboah-Assiamah Monkey Sanctuary. Who is familiar with that area? Yeboah-Assiamah Monkey Sanctuary. Who has been there? It's in the Bono East. Maybe Prof will organize excursion. So you go and then have a feel of the Monkey Sanctuary, BFMS. Then we draw policy lessons for contemporary environmental governance. Okay, so these are the core points, my dear friends. But you see, when we talk of natural resources, these are some examples of natural resources freely given by nature. Substances given by nature that occur in natural form, which humans require for their livelihoods and economic activities. These are typical examples of natural resources, my dear friends. They are materials and substances that occur in nature and are used by humans to meet their needs. They are not made by the people, but they are essential for life and economic activities. Typical examples are here. My dear friends, why is it important to take a more prudent approach to manage natural resources? Why? Why should we be worried if, well, they are just supplied by nature? So why should we be concerned with how we govern or manage these natural resources? Yes, let's share thoughts. Okay, Simon. Yes, please.
Yeah, Prof. Because they can be whatever, they can be exhausted. So if we don't manage them well or put them into effective use or protect them, they can be destroyed or they can get finished. So once
Thank
they are exhausted, hardly can we get some, even though some of them can be replenished after use. But
yes. Okay.
regardless, if we don't take good care of them, they can be destroyed. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Simon. So Simon is talking about sustainability, okay, of these resources. Rodlin. Yes, Rhoda. I'll
Yes,
mute.
Prof. Thank
Yes.
you. Yes, so they affect our lives, the way we live our lives. If we don't manage them well, affect the way we live as human beings. Very important role in our livelihood, like how we live and how we sustain ourselves as human beings. Thank you.
Fantastic. They are essential to our livelihood, and so we need to take prudent approach to manage them. Thank you. Odame.
Yeah, Prof, thank you. I'll also say that it's for survival. Without these natural resources, human being will not survive. So we do that for us to survive on this earth.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
They usually say that the day the last tree dies, the last person also dies. Okay, and so we need to take prudent approach to their management. Thank you very much. So when we put all the points together, these are quintessential to the sustainability of mankind. Okay, and so we cannot compromise. We need to take a prudent management to these natural resources. But there are global realities. Climate change is with us, causing a greater havoc. Deforestation, people are destroying the forest, okay, the trees, timber, people are destroying this. Galamsey is with us, people are destroying the land. Biodiversity loss, water pollution, and wildlife extinction. And these are the very things that we mentioned that we don't want them to happen, because the day all these get depleted, our lives are also compromised. Okay, we are in jeopardy. Is it a signal of an end, or do we put our hands in the air and cry? This makes governance of natural resources more important, because global realities are with us, and people are destroying the natural resources that we talk about. Well, this is you can see a forest that is being degraded, the land is destroyed, illegal mining activities. Now, a key question I want to pose is that why do governments continue to struggle to protect natural resources despite the abundance of laws and law enforcement agencies? Why? Why do governments continue to struggle? Yes, any thought on this? Why do governments continue to struggle despite having laws, institutions? Yes, Simon.
Uh, Prof, poor implementation of some of the laws, and then also our attitude as individuals, no matter what, human nature will play its role. So this one also affects the way government battles there. Even the willingness to fight has not also been effectively be demonstrated by the government. So these are some of the things. Thank you, Prof.
All right, thank you very much. Rhoda.
Yes, Prof, I was going to say enforcement of the laws by enforcement agencies. Most of these enforcement agencies are not enforcing the laws.
All right. So there are laxities in the enforcement, war enforcement mechanisms. All right. And why? Rhoda, why are they not enforcing the law? We've given them the power.
Sorry?
I mean, we've given them the authority, okay, the law enforcement agencies, and sometimes with their resources. So why are they not enforcing?
I think that there are several reasons, but one of the key reasons that I believe is issues of corruption, issues of bribery. Sometimes these are the issues why they are unable to enforce the law. And also sometimes they are restrained in terms of resources and logistical, equipment available for them to be able to do their work. Then I think the highest reason why, specifically in this context, in our country, is political influence. I believe that politics plays a very big role that enables them not to, unfortunately, be able to do their work, which is the enforcement. Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you. Rhoda has summarized everything together. And that makes it a very complex situation. Very complex situation. And as scholars of public administration, we are free to be using the concepts in public administration. So this make it what we call a wicked problem. In public administration, we call such issues of wicked problems. They are hydra-headed in nature. Okay. Natural resource governance involves balancing competing interests. And that makes its governance very complicated. Enforcement of the law very challenging, because it involves some competing imperatives, either to do this or to do that. And even if you are to do A, it has implication on another issue. And this is typical wicked problem phenomenon. They come in a more complicated manner. You want to strictly enforce the rule and then you are affecting something like, say, livelihood. You want to conserve, then livelihoods are what? Affected. Ecological goals. So, the more we want to attain ecological goals, protection, conservation, then there are socio-economic imperatives. Conservation, biodiversity, protected forest, wildlife protection, sustainable use. As we are thinking about these, there are also some socio-economic imperatives, livelihoods, employment, farming. Do we have to get a protected forest? But people also need it to farm. Wildlife protection, hunting. Sustainable use, people need immediate income. So these are some of the challenges that we usually face. There was a country where even among cabinets, there was a clash between the Minister for Environment as well as the one in charge of finance. Now, whether to protect a particular area, an area that was a protected area, then they discovered that it had enough of mineral resources. And so, whilst typically the Minister for Environment will want protection of these species, but the finance minister also need money for the treasury. So, well, Mr. Minister, this is your natural resource. I also have a resource under your resource. And these are some of the key dilemma with regards to natural resources. the imperatives, there are different stakeholders, and each of them hold some aspect of these imperatives. So what do you think government officials such as wildlife officers and then forestry, officers, what do you think they'll be more concerned with? They'll be more concerned with what, Simon? These two imperatives, ecological goals and socio-economic goals.
Like they should be more concerned about these two are very come what may. As you said, livelihood must survive farming activities, hunting. So perhaps they have to balance the two. But some way, somehow, they also delve themselves into it or soil their reputation by engaging in corrupt practices. I think these are some of the things. My opinion, though.
Okay, all right. Any other perspective? Because of these varying imperatives and also with various stakeholders. Yes, Rhoda.
Yes, Prof. I would take a different opinion from Simon, because if you look at the specific group you mentioned, wildlife pool and all that, they would stick strictly to the ecological because that's how they get paid. So their economic benefits lies in the fact that their jobs are available, which means that they are supposed to protect the environment. So it really depends on who at the end of the day, how the person in that sector benefits, right? If I'm working as a wildlife specialist and that is my field of work, and you say that, oh, because there's lithium in the land, you need to destroy, I would be against it, because at the end of the day, that's taking my livelihood away from me as a wildlife activist or a wildlife staff or anything. So I believe that it really depends on who is in which category and how it benefits them. That's why you'll be able to tell whether the person would choose whether I'm sticking with it being environmentally friendly or I'm going with a socio-economic part.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Rhoda. So typically, they are more concerned with the ecological goals and conservation and protection, whilst other stakeholders, like the people, the farmers, the hunters and the likes, also more of the social, the economic benefits they derive from these natural resources. Okay, yeah, but there should be a balancing act, else then the goals do not converge. Why natural resources usually become degraded? Well, population is increasing, and since we depend on these for livelihood and other economic activities, poverty, weak enforcement, and all the things you mentioned, institutional failure, market pressure, and then political interference. Clearly, natural resource issues, their governance, the problems that we have highlighted here, these are multi-million problems, and they are too complex for government alone. Government alone cannot shoulder this, because we are even talking about institutional failure, weak enforcement, political interference. And so government cannot solve alone, or government will not be committed, okay, to do this 100%. Can one institution effectively solve climate change, illegal mining, biodiversity loss, and water pollution? The answer clearly is no. Okay, and we are building a point. So traditionally, we have relied on just the state institutions, the fortress approach. But with time, we are confronted with the fact that natural resource issues are complex for just one entity, for government alone. All right. Now, traditional public administration model. So, because of this critical challenge, we have moved from what we call government to governance. My dear friends, are you with me? If nothing at all, you should remember this.
Yes, Prof.
We have moved away from government to governance. Yes. So traditional public administration, traditional PA, focus on only what government or the state and its institutions. The fortress approach. They regarded every other individual as, destroyers or enemy of the environment. And so the state, took upon itself taking charge, exclusive for control. Government controls everything with regards to natural resource management issues. But there has been somewhat trajectory or evolution. The modern model, later on in the slide, I will show you the key phases. But in a nutshell, just note that we have moved from the traditional PA model, which is more of just what government, to a modern one, which is what governance. When we talk about governance, governance involves what engagement or interaction, okay, among what stakeholders or parties, of which government is one. Government is just one of those stakeholders. So once we talk about governance, we are talking about interaction or engagement among key stakeholders, of which government is just what one aspect of this. And there are key other stakeholders who come together. Okay, now typically the market is part, the market or the private sector. The private sector, civil society organizations, these are what key elements of the governance process. Government collaborates, the modern model, government collaborates with communities, NGOs, traditional authorities, researchers, private sector, citizens. Environmental governance has shifted from government acting alone to multiple actors governing together. Okay, all right. So here we are, the evolution of environmental governance. The period from 1950s to 70s, well, you had government control, and that is the fortress approach. This is traditional public administration. Centralized regulation, command and control. This had been the situation. In the 1980s, well, community-based natural resource management, things were ceded to communities or local communities to take charge, local participation, and then more of our decentralization. In the 1990s, the concept of co-management, okay, well, was also very popular. Co-management, shared authority between state and then communities, between state and then communities. So then there was a realization that government alone, the centralized system was not working well. The 1980s, well, we decentralized and then we made what the local communities took charge. We also realized that that was not what yielding the necessary impact in terms of protecting natural resources. 1990s, well, let us make it shared authority between states and communities, that is co-management. That also had its flaws. From the 2000 onwards, the idea of collaborative governance, adaptive governance, okay, has taken centrality, where we regard resource governance as a shared responsibility between multi-stakeholder partnership, okay? It's a partnership between multiple stakeholders. Learning, we learn from some failures. That is what adaptive governance. We learn once we are faced with what challenge, we learn. Sometimes we call it age of networks. So government will network with CSOs, with researchers, partners, the market, and all that is what networks, age of networks. Realize that no single entity can effectively manage or protect natural resources. So then there should be the need for networks. Flexibility. We are flexible so that which approach will help in a particular situation we adopt. Not so fixated. Then multi-level governance. National, regional, local, multi-level governance. Very crucial in all this. So my dear friends, this illustrates how environmental governance has moved or has evolved over time. So in contemporary times, the focus is on multi-stakeholder partnership. Learning. How do we learn from failure? Like this one. How do we learn from failure? Complex crisis. Once you were faced with complex crisis, how did we learn? How did institutions adapt or evolve? So the title tells you that, well, they were with a particular management framework. They were faced with a complex crisis, which would compel collaborative natural resource governance. Okay. So I've even argued that collaborative governance does not even evolve naturally. Even though sometimes the literature argues that these things may evolve naturally, I argued in this work that many cases they evolve circumstantially. Okay, circumstantially. When you are faced with a deep problem, they say necessity is the mother of what? Invention. So once faced with a critical juncture, then that might compel entities to evolve. Okay. Now the fortress approach, the key question was who exercises authority? And that was for the states. Key feature was hierarchy. The state was at the commanding height, and that command and control. The era of governance. How are collective problems solved? We do that through multiple actors. Key features for networks, age of networks. Co-management, who shares management, state plus what communities, and it's a shared authority. Collaborative governance or adaptive governance. Multi was stakeholders, learning, adaptation, flexible multi-level actors, ladies and gentlemen. Collaborative natural resource governance involves a governance arrangement in which the states and non-state actors jointly participate in planning, decision-making, implementation, and enforcement for sustainable resource management. So as we've mentioned, from the 2000s onwards, the focus has been on what? Collaboration, adaptive governance. This is where the states and non-state actors jointly participate, planning, decision-making, implementation, and enforcement. So here there is what? Active participation of non-state actors, multi-actors. And when we talk of participation, we are not just talking about the government informing the people. No, that is not proper participation. When we talk of participation, there are 7 different ranks, or if you like we have a ladder of participation. If you are just informing the people, that is tokenism. They don't have actual control. But when we talk of collaborative governance, the people jointly participate in planning. When you are planning, making decisions, You are taking with them, implementing with them. Not that you go and do something and then you come and do press conference and then inform people about it. That is not collaborative natural resource governance. It involves, so these are the key features: shared decision making, shared authority, shared responsibility, shared accountability, and then there's what? Mutual or shared learning. These are the key features of collaborative natural resource governance, my dear friends. Collaboration has become more important. Government alone cannot provide. Government alone cannot provide, and communities alone often, they also cannot. Okay? And so then we come together, we collaborate. We harness our strengths together and then curb our weaknesses. So the strengths of both government and communities or other stakeholders, they pool their strengths together, manage their weaknesses to address any potential threats with regards to natural resource governance. Government cannot be very familiar with local knowledge. The people in the communities where the natural resources are located, they have the local knowledge. They understand the context or the natural resource more. They have the local knowledge. They have community legitimacy. If they talk to the people are likely to obey. Okay. For example, if you have a local chief who is what revered by the people, if you have a local youth leader who commands the local people, when there are youth groups in the local community or farmers association where the people revere their local leaders and they are involved in monitoring, this can make it very effective because there is community legitimacy. The people regard these people as rights. Yes, Simon.
Okay, thank you. From this one, the community, as you said, if they have a reputable person or person, I would like to use my community as an example. We have said no to Adam Sintos. We had a Reverend Father in the town. He is in, so he has sensitize the youth and then let them understand the negative impact of illegal money. So since 2010 coming, there have been series of these galamseyers coming there to entice them with money, etc. But let's say the youth have said no to illegal money. So I wanted to cite this as an example. So if the community like have such a person and the youth are interested in it, they will definitely go by these kind of things we are talking about. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. And this is a fantastic example, and that is a very good case, which researchers might even be interested to come and document this particular arrangement. Okay, there's a community legitimacy. The people revere the Reverend Father. Okay, and then even if you can also add, if there is a local imam there, so that then it will appeal to the different divides. There is a continuous monitoring because the people are there. The people are there. The Reverend Father can tell the youth, okay, to take position. You monitor this area. You to monitor that area. Once you observe anything, come and bring to our attention. There is continuous monitoring. That cannot be same as when Operation Vanguard and Operation, Galam stop. They use 1 week. They go to, let's say, Wasa, and then they leave. They go to, this place. there is no continuous monitoring, and people can easily trace your itinerary, okay, and then they feed in. Sometimes the people will even say that, well, but the night is there, the night you people you are living. So, but local communities have we have continuous monitoring. There is trust, and then cultural enforcement. Culture will come in. Okay, communities alone also lack legal authority. Okay, the state has entrusted the legal mandate to specific institutions. They have the legal authority. So in law, if you don't have the legal authority and then you want to do something, someone can just look you in the face and will ask quo warranto. Quo warranto. I mean, who has given you this authority to be doing what this, what monitoring? Sometimes to funding is an issue. The technical expertise and then enforcement capacity. So even though they have the strengths mentioned above, there are also some weaknesses. Now, it becomes more robust when there is collaboration between these or different entities. So you have the government. I mean, by government, we mean what the state institutions, let's say Forestry Commission, right? Minerals Commission, wildlife officials. I mean, these mandated or authorized state agencies, if they liaise or they've been, authorized committees and back them, it means that these local communities now have some kind of legal basis, okay, through that collaboration. They can get access to technical expertise, right? So collaboration combines the comparative advantages, and in the end, we have a more robust governance framework or model to effectively govern or protect the resources. Well, in my work, I used adaptive governance as the theoretical framework. Okay, the theoretical foundation was adaptive governance. Today, you are using framework A, maybe fortress approach, but then you'll be faced with a problem, which maybe a critical juncture or complex crisis, and you realize that no, this management model is not conducive for the times that you are in. And so quickly you learn, you innovate. You learn, you innovate, and then you might come up with a more flexible governance regime that can suffice, that can be more workable in the times you find yourself. Adaptive governance means for learning, observing what is happening, whether that governance regime needs to be readjusted. You need to innovate and then collaborate. So that was the theoretical framework adopted in the work, Complex Crisis and the Rise of. I also make mention of formal institutions and then informal institutions. In the BFMS, well, once we talk of formal institutions, these are those sanctioned by the state and these sort of institutions, the laws, the regulations, the court system, wildlife officers, the constitution, okay, the district assembly and its what bylaws. These are formal institutions promulgated by the states to foster protection of our natural resources. Those are formal institutions. We also have informal institutions, which usually come in the form of usages, practices, conventions, and how the people have lived their lives. They are also rules, but they are usually embedded in the people's, social lives, customs, and practices. So they are their customs, their traditions, and those who enforce these customs and traditions, you have the chiefs, and then the chief priest. Okay, they enforce these traditions and these taboos. They enforce them. They ensure that the right things are done. Now, there should be a synergy, okay? A synergy between formal and informal institutions, my dear friends. So in this article, which was published in a very reputable journal, Society and Natural Resources. Rhoda, read the title for me. The title of the article.
The title is Two Sides of the Same Coin, Formal and Informal Institutional Synergy in a Case Study of Wildlife Governance in Ghana.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rhoda. So, two sides of the same coin. I mean, they are all seeking to achieve the same outcome or results, even though they are two different sides, but it's the same coin. And I've argued for institutional synergy. All right, I will use the Yeboah-Assiamah case study to illustrate this. In Africa, these informal institutions are very important, such that environmental governance in Africa, should not choose to ignore traditional institutions. We will use the BFMS case to illustrate this, because in African traditional communities, where usually these resources are found, traditional authority, people revere their traditions, and they can control, these traditional authorities can control the people. The BFMS, this is the institutional evolution, how the institutional arrangement of the Yeboah-Assiamah monkey sanctuary, this is how the institution evolved over time. Now, in the beginning, so this is taken from the article Complex Crisis and the Rise of Collaborative Natural Resource Governance. Initially, this was how the natural resource, wildlife, let me give an overview of the BFMS first. So this is your speaker here. You can see me here. This was around 2016 when I went for the field work. Yeboah-Assiamah Monkey Sanctuary is a place found in Bono East, in Kranza. So this is BFMS in the context of Ghana. So when you are in Ghana, let's say this is Accra. From Accra to BFMS is about 230 kilometers, okay? Then you get to the Bono East, Kranza. It is a place where we have the colobus and then the mona monkeys. They are found here. And we don't kill the monkeys. The monkeys are regarded as offspring of the gods. Okay? They are the children of the gods in the area. There are two gods. One is a male, the other is a female. And so these monkeys are their children or the offspring. And so traditionally, these wildlife species, the mona monkeys and then the colobus monkeys, this is the colobus. They are black and white with a lot of hair on the face, fluffy ones. These are the colobus monkeys, and they are very rare. They are very uncommon. But these resources had been managed or protected over time by the embedded informal institutions. And by informal institutions, what did I say, my dear friends? What were the informal institutions?
The priest.
Yes, the priest. Okay. Rhoda?
The chiefs.
The chiefs. Okay. Simon?
Yes, say customs.
Customs.
And the totems.
Customs. Totems.
Customs, taboos. Yeah, taboos.
Taboos. Okay. Enforced by the chief priest. These informal institutions had been able to protect the monkeys over a long period, and the monkeys were protected. They were not killed. They were not endangered. So this was the first phase. This is called embeddedness. The embedded informal institutions such as customs, the norms, the people's religious practices, the traditional religion where they revere the traditional priest, okay, so that they don't kill the monkeys. Even if the monkeys die naturally, they will dig. They have a monkey cemetery. Where is it? Even when the monkeys die, they bury them like what? People. You see the monkey cemetery. Do you see? Hello? Yes. When you go, you will see where they have buried the monkeys who have died with their names and the year, their age, just like how human beings, when we bury them, we do some inscription on the tomb or what. So the embedded informal institutions were able to protect this. But with time, the institutional environment would evolve to include formal institutions, formal rules of the game. There will be formal arrangements, formal government agencies like wildlife officers, forest officials, and other formal institutional arrangement like who has access to certain portions of the forest that houses the monkeys. Clearly, monkeys are kept in the forest. Are you with me? So when you go to Boabin Fiema, this is a twin community. One is what? Boabin, and the other is Fiema. Now the monkeys, wildlife, they move from one place to the other. So they are found around the forest, forests around Boabin and then Fiema. But with time, they have even moved to other 7 nearby communities. But they are more dominant in the Boabin Fiema, okay? So who have access to the forest where the monkeys are kept, and then how do you even manage the forest? Because once the forest gets destroyed, clearly the monkeys will also be endangered. And so with time, there was the need for institutional growth, for formal rules to be part. Then this will also further evolve to a new governance era where there will be alignment of the governance structures with the resource context, including resource allocation and benefit system, because people protect more once they see benefits. And as I've mentioned, initially the monkeys were concentrated in the 2 communities, but with time they have increased their range to other 7 nearby communities, which also requires some new arrangements new incentives for these ones as well. Okay, so that is the case BFMS. Now, let's take each of the phases one by one. Phase 1, traditional governance. So I've mentioned that initially it was an embedded traditional institution arrangement. Informal institutions, the monkeys were viewed as what? Sacred monkeys. They were products of the gods. And you know, the people are traditional believers. And if we've been told that the monkeys are offspring of the gods, do you think the people will harm the monkeys? Are they going to harm them?
Sir.
No, clearly no.
No, Prof.
They will not. So they were sacred and they were taboos that nobody should harm or maim the monkeys. There was community enforcement. Okay, local traditional institutions were used to enforce this. There was high compliance, no state involvement. Protection depended almost entirely on belief systems. So this would be more of a community-based arrangement. Community-based arrangement. But there was a complex crisis. And in public administration, in institutional studies, we call it critical juncture. And anytime there's a critical juncture along the course of an issue or a regime, it brings about profound changes. Anytime there are critical junctures, it brings about, it says that, well, we are not in normal times, and it brings about a lot of changes. Like when the world, and for that matter, Ghana, faced COVID-19, this was a critical juncture. And it brought about many organizations developing new ways, new models of doing business. Many organizations improvised, innovated, or learned to bring about something new, the way they did their things. Even if you were not into sanitizer, Adonko will now go into a sanitizer making, right? Now, the critical juncture was that Christianity challenged traditional beliefs. So this was the time some crop of Christians, specifically the Savior Church, they were trooping to the area, the Boabin-Fima communities. Well, they were able to get some converts, and they used literal interpretation of the Bible that, well, all creatures were created by God and that he has sanctified it for people to chop. Samuel, Asari, is that not the case? Asari. So that was what the Savior Church was preaching. Rhoda, that was what they were telling the people, that God has given everything for the people to chop. And so nothing will happen to them. They should chop. And so Christianity will now challenge the traditional belief system. And few people started chopping. Nothing was happening to them, of course. Well, somewhere. But the people, they have some legends, okay, to tell you about some catastrophe which befell people who killed some of the monkeys. I've put together some of these in the article, okay? But this will make what hunting increase because the people started eating the monkeys. and there were no direct consequences they were facing. So the hunting increases, which means that traditional sanctions became weakened, and the wildlife species, the monkeys, became threatened. They became endangered species, and that is a critical juncture. This is a key moment. Desperate moment requires what? Desperate or innovative actions. So what do you think they should do when faced with this critical or complex crisis? What should be the way to go? Simon?
Yeah, Prof. I think the traditional it's not easy. The traditionalists should try and stay on their ground to also keep their people on their side. They should make them understand the rationale behind this, because somebody will say behind this tradition there is a reason. So they would like to protect the environment. When they understand it this way, if they make them understand that it is not only the spiritual aspect, but rather because they want to protect nature. When the people understand it this way, they would never, perhaps based on their Christian whatever belief, to go against the traditional whatever belief. Thank you, sir.
Okay, good. So that is the adaptive governance Simon is talking about. Then there's the need for educating the people. Not just to be scaring them with wrath of their gods or ancestors and those kind of things. Okay, but because it had worked for them, they had not seen the need to engage in any adaptive governance approach. But once faced with a critical juncture, yes, Simon, you are right. These things should emanate. So it was clear that if nothing was done about the situation, the people were going to chop all the monkeys, and then they will go into extinction. But these are popular but scarce or rare monkey species. And so quickly, there was the need for institutional learning. There was the need for collaborative governance. Okay, clearly, if the informal institutions are not working well for especially people who have come into the community, these were not mostly natives. Okay, these were mostly not natives, people who have come into the community, settlers, who have no regard for local traditions and then customs. And they don't even fear anything. But the indigenous people, for them, they revere these long-held traditions. So how can we deal with these or settlers who don't fear the gods or have no regard for this? Let's see what will happen. There was a quick institutional response, that is adaptive governance in action. Community leaders recognized the failure of the informal institutions to adequately protect the monkeys. They sought government support. Okay, they sought government support. So clearly, then the idea of formal institutions will come to add to the informal institutions. So that while the local people who revere the gods and the local, customs, they will be compelled by the informal institutions to protect this natural resource. While the settlers who have no regard for these local institutions, then they are compelled by formal state laws. Okay, so whichever side that you find yourself, you are covered. Okay, and this will provide robust protection for the monkeys. So the area will be declared a wildlife sanctuary so that people cannot, even if you do not believe in the gods, even if you don't believe that when you kill them, someone is going to kill you, you are compelled by formal state laws not to kill the monkey. Are you with me, ladies and gentlemen? Hello.
Yes, Prof.
Yes.
Yes,
Prof,
sir.
yeah, I know.
So this institutional
Yes.
growth or synergy or response would provide robust governance or mechanism or protection for the natural resource, if you like, the monkeys. So they sought government support, and, it was declared a monkey sanctuary where we have wildlife officers, deployed to the area to ensure that people comply. So now formal bylaws will be introduced. Formal bylaws will be introduced to ensure that anybody that will go contrary to these bylaws, we have the court system that can deal with you as well. Because, in constitutional law, they say that there can never be an offense when there is no law that makes that thing an offense. Okay? So once there are no laws, it means there are no offenses. That is why when someone is taken to court, you ask, what is my offense? Then maybe the prosecutor will say, well, the person has stolen money contrary to section so and so of the Criminal Offences Act. So it is stipulated in law that do not take something that does not belong to you. Such that once you do that, then there is a law already. You have gone contrary to the law. Okay. That is it. So now there will be laws such that if someone should harm any of the monkeys, they have gone contrary to state laws, and then they'll be dealt with. So clearly there was institutional response, which was formal institutions will be introduced to complement that of the informal institutions. And this was the emergence of collaborative governance. Traditional authorities. We also have the Wildlife Division plus the District Assembly, the Nkranza District Assembly. Okay, these are the governance of entities. We also have a management committee, that is the collaborative platform. You have the local communities, at least the 7 communities plus Yeboah-Assiamah. Sometimes researchers from the country and from outside will go there. We have civil society organizations, NGOs, who all jointly make decisions, and that is the collaborative natural resource governance we have in contemporary times are there. BFMS, Yeboah-Assiamah Monkey Sanctuary. All these multi-stakeholders, they have some key roles that they play, which continue to improve the area and has become a site for ecotourism. So at least now the people see some benefits. All right. Now the BFMS means of Yeboah-Assiamah Monkey Sanctuary. The model worked well because there was a shared vision. There was community ownership, government legitimacy. Okay, the state came in. There was a legal backing. There was also cultural legitimacy. So if there are local people, who don't regard government and its institutions, at least they have got respect for the gods. They have respect for Nananum, respect for the traditional authorities and priests. So based on that, they will protect what? The monkeys. Now, if there are settlers because of our population or migration and what have you, people have moved to these areas. And so, well, even if they don't regard tradition and customs, they are compelled by positive law, or if you like, government law or state laws. That's legal backing. There are clear institutional rules, and this make the Yeboah-Assiamah Monkey Sanctuary what? It made it work. So the species which had become endangered, which people even fear that with time, all the monkeys were going to be eaten because of this institutional adaptation, this adaptive governance model, the collaboration. The monkeys became properly protected, and now they have increased in terms of their numbers or population. Yes, if we are.
Yes, sir. I think I will suspend my question for now. I'll come back again.
You come back. Okay.
Yes, I was thinking of something. I'll come back.
Okay. Maybe we may
Sorry,
even answer
sorry.
before you come.
Yes,
So
yes. I
okay.
think.
Thank you, Ifua. All right. Now, the people do not just protect the monkeys. There's a benefit sharing arrangement. I mentioned that today the place is an ecotourism destination. People from all over move to the. Yes, Theodore. Theo.
Hello, Prof.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Please, I just want to announce that we have one also in the Volta region.
Yes. What's the name? Taffy monkey. Yes.
Sanctuary.
Fantastic. Yes, Taffy. Yes.
Taffy.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, Theodore.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you too.
And it is an ecotourism or destination. So the revenue from the ecotourism is shared. So there's a benefit sharing arrangement. Okay, such that the people at least they see the outcome of them protecting the monkeys or using their forest to harbor the monkeys. The communities, traditional leaders, wildlife division, district assembly, and then there's a development fund. So all the 9 communities, okay, who get disturbed by the monkeys, at least they get something. So when you go and then they have a pipe or a community water system, and then you are told that, well, they got this water system because of the monkeys, or maybe revenue from the share of their money they got. They have been using it to do these activities or projects. At least the people can point to certain things, and that can even be a justification for continuing to protect these monkeys. People conserve what they benefit from. Otherwise, then they'll be asking themselves, what is the rationale for even protecting this species? So there's a proper benefit sharing system, which the management committee, they ensure that everything is done properly. Now, the institutional evolution, traditional governance, of course, it was essentially traditional governance underpinned by informal institutions, and you can mention the actors, right? The chiefs, the priests, and of course, the sources of law where the custom, the tradition, the taboo, okay? And the chiefs and the priests were the enforcers, and of course, the community members. But the advent of the Savior Church will lead to institutional crisis. That was a critical juncture, complex crisis. And that will naturally lead to, or that will circumstantially lead to adaptive response. You have to adapt or you perish. But these people, they did not perish. They did not make the monkeys perish. They effectively adapted, which will give rise to collaborative natural resource governance. In order to ensure that people continuously, protect the monkey, and for that matter, the other 7 new communities where the monkeys have increased their range to, they have all been roped into the benefit sharing scheme. So at least, they have something to tell their community members that, well, you need to continue to protect the monkeys, okay? Because if the monkeys are not there, these benefits we are also receiving, they are also not there. So at least the people have three different reasons, okay? The formal laws are there, the informal institutions are there, plus the benefit sharing, okay, that the communities are getting, which can use some substantial impact on the community livelihood. Now, this robust institutional evolution and collaborative governance regime has provided a resilient social ecological system for the BFMS. My dear friends, collaborative governance provides higher legitimacy, okay? If you are a traditional person, you are skeptical of government, you think government, or well, if you think government is corrupt, government officials are, that. If you're a typical traditional person, well, because of the informal institutions, the chiefs involved, the local people that you trust, they are part of the regime. And so even if you're a typical traditional person, because of the chiefs and all these traditions, you comply, okay? You comply with the system. If you are also a typical modern day person, which you don't have regard for, traditional institutions, well, the laws compel you. So whichever way, you are covered. There is better compliance, okay? Ideally, or all things being equal, compliance will be higher because of the traditional as well as the formal. There is local ownership. The people are involved. The people are actively involved, especially the committee members, okay? And so there is local ownership, continuous monitoring. They make sure at all times. Knowledge integration. We combine local or indigenous knowledge with the technical expertise from professionals like the wildlife officials, forest officials. They have, technical expertise, but they combine this with the local knowledge, so there's knowledge integration. And then these two put together properly provides a robust mechanism. It reduces conflicts. Then it improves resilience. There's stronger enforcement. So collaborative governance has greater strengths. Of course, there are some challenges as well with it. But this BFMS case provides broader lessons for Ghana. Collaboration can be applicable in these areas as well. As Simon mentioned that in illegal mining, fight against illegal mining, if we have collaborative governance where we empower local communities or local arrangements or committees, okay, that have what legitimacy, institutional backing, that the people know that, well, they have been given some mandates, okay, to champion some discourse where no one will ask them, what authority do you have? It will be what? It will be prudent. It will help because there will be local monitoring mechanism, continuous monitoring. It can also be applicable in protecting forest reserves because there can be what? Continuous monitoring. It can be crucial in wetlands, protection of fisheries, coastal management and water resources or national parks. Well, but clearly, the fight against galamsey or illegal mining cannot be successful using only state institutions. At least we have tried. We've tried, but it appears.
Sort of.
Yes, yeah.
I said sort of.
Yes, sort of. Yeah. It will be difficult for the state institutions to act alone. It will be difficult, but if they should adopt more collaborative approach, okay, of having multiple stakeholders, multi-stakeholder approach, empowering some local entities and then dealing with them, that will provide more dividends than the fortress approach, where sometimes 1 week, 2 weeks, and then yes, Simon.
Exactly. I always say that if government collaborates with the traditional and the various community, they form voluntary, let's say environmental, whatever group, it will help. They can protect even the communities or the land, the resources better, especially from Galamsey. Because it may seem that the community, it's just like they are all into it. So even where I am, almost everybody, they don't care about anything. But if you go to certain community, as I use my community for example, the chief is involved, the youth and others, they have formed environmental monitoring team locally, and then they have arrested so many people and sent them to this guy. Sometimes they will send them there, and then the police will release them. So the last time they took them straight to Tapa, and all those guys have been in prison. So they've been doing a lot. So I think the government should empower the traditional authorities and then also make it compulsory for every community to enact or perhaps form voluntary environmental or eco-friendly whatever group, so that they keep monitoring these river bodies and other places, so that this Galamsey will not go and destroy such the water bodies and other stuff. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. So in many communities where the local people have taken their destiny into their hands, where local authorities and entities have come together to form some kind of committees, okay, to monitor and to ensure right things are done, they are able to effectively protect, their resource. We can contrast that with communities where, well, the people are not part of the process. They have ceded all their fate, their destiny to the state entities. Like you mentioned that sometimes even the people will do their citizen arrest and then send them to the police station, and then the police will not further the process. The police may not prosecute them, will just release them, and that will be the end of the story. Clearly, the state institutions alone cannot address the protection of natural resources. But collaborative governance, okay, is the way to go, because the people have, local legitimacy, and they feel the real impact of the negative outcome of destroying the environment, destroying the livelihood, and maiming the environment. And so they see it as a part and parcel of their livelihood. So they will be key partners or stakeholders in ensuring right things are done. Of course, some are also some are compromised, but since it is made up of stakeholders, at least those that will be positive will be more than the few, and they may override the few who might not be willing to do the right thing. Okay. Now I am wrapping up the session, but the key takeaways are that environmental problems are governance or problems, and they are very complex because there are imperatives protecting them as well as our people's livelihood, which requires institutions institutions such as laws, rules, regulations to govern how these resources are used or exploited. Formal and informal institutions are complementary. They complement each other. They are not fighting each other, okay? They are not mutually exclusive. They are two sides of the same coin. How do we properly merge and integrate them to ensure that, we get a better outcome for our natural resources? Many cases where they might be seen as conflictual, crisis often drives what? Synergy or institutional innovation. Sometimes you have been working with one model for a very long time. Even when we advise you to change it, say, oh, once it is not broken, why fix it? But crisis, complex crisis, or when faced with challenging situations, it will often drive you searching for new models that can work better. In other words, crisis often drives institutional innovation. Then you search for better ways of doing things. And collaboration improves resilience, the ability for the system to withstand any shock from the environment. Once there's proper collaboration, collaborative governance, it improves the resilience. Whether the shock is coming from indigenous people, well, they know that, traditionally, this is not right. Nananum have spoken against, the gods are watching us. Whether the threat will come from the settlers, clearly they are barred by what? Positive laws or state laws. And the people can do citizen arrest. Okay, the local communities, they can what? Arrest them and send them to the station. And the laws will deal with them, because it is a written law that the monkeys or the resources are not to be destroyed. Adaptive governance is essential for sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be wrapping up. Okay, right, but there are a few challenges with collaborative governance. Okay, well, sometimes there's a lead capture. The very people to lead the collaboration at the local level themselves might be compromised. Okay, conflicting interests, the imbalances in the power, and also, sometimes funding the collaborative regime is also challenging. There are some coordination costs. Who pays that cost? And then political interference and some, climate uncertainty. So these are some of the challenges that are associated with collaborative governance. But the challenges cannot surmount the overarching positive impact, okay? Positive impact, that was the strengths. Very fantastic. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I am wrapping up today's session, and this will be the end of the session. I will pause here to take your questions and then your comments you have. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Prof. God bless you.
If we are, do you still?
Yes, Prof. I think that as people say what they and that being famous is thing and for I here to just we all see a well captured effort, and like to also add you have clearly said that if the people don't see benefit from resource that is in the community, they will not protect it. We need to use people to protect it. How many years have been people may not get much. But there was one that I heard is alleged that, I mean, a foreign could say that, oh, they went to see the chief and they couldn't believe it. All the chief asked for was a 6-classroom block. And they were ready, they were, upgrade the town and everything. That's what the chief asked for. But when the concession is given by government and they are supposed to go, they are supposed to talk to the local community leaders to see what community impact they should do. So community leaders also out, and then the community, they begin not to try if, and then this whole approach. So I think that I have benefited a lot from this, and I mean I think the word elite capture is thing to me anyway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes. So these are some of the challenges that she has clearly mentioned. Elite capture, okay, sometimes, and also conflicting interests. Sometimes the very leaders at the local level to front and to champion the community interest engage in some kind of compromises. But it also calls for the vigilance of the people, okay? Clearly, the local leaders are representing the people. And if the people are active, they have their eyes on the ground, okay, monitoring their leaders. I mean, leaders will be very careful, even if they want to be compromised, because then the people. But when people have leaders or local leaders, and then, well, they are not monitoring, they are not calling for accountability and what have you, then it is likely that even these local arrangements become a compromise. Okay, so it calls for even collaboration beyond the collaboration. Who watches the watchman? So the people, the youth should be eye-ready, should be monitoring their leaders at the local level to ensure right things are done at all times. Thank you very much. Like a local media. Thankfully, these days, every local community, they have some radio station or what have you. They can be engaging in bringing out some of these things to expose people that have the tendency to abuse their small power given them. All right, thank you very much, Efua. Thank you. Yes. Community Information Center. Thank you, Rhoda. So that if you are a local assembly member and you go and take a bribe or something, around 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. down, and then the people are singing your praises there. Will you be happy if this one goes out there that local leader you've been entrusted to help the people yet? So that is great. Thank you very much for the thoughts and insights. Any other question, comments before we will wrap up the class? Okay, so in the absence of any question, comment, my dear friends, you take note of the collaborative natural resource governance that we've looked at, and how the institutions and the governance framework evolved, okay, in the BFMS case. How it evolved because of a complex crisis, and the complex crisis. Before then, you knew how the resources were protected, then the complex crisis, and then how it brought about institutional adaptation. And in order to get the buy-in of the people, we have also brought about some kind of benefit sharing arrangement. Okay, so it makes it very watertight. Usually, Prof. Ahinkan will ask me to set one question, okay? And so please, this one is a very short topic. And so I believe you have jotted your points, you have your notes there. If there is any question, please ask. Okay, so that if this thing comes in, exam, at least you should be able to write and then make it more practical. And also beyond exams, this is something that collaborative governance is. That is the order of the day when we come to environmental governance issues. We are talking about collaboration, adaptive governance. All right. Okay, my dear friends, let me thank you very much for your time and your attention. Enjoy your evening and your weekend. Okay, bye-bye. It's Prof here.
Amen. Bye. Thank you. The same to you. God
Okay,
bless you, Prof.
all right. Okay, all right.
Bye.
Bye.
Good evening.
Good evening.